Hi everyone, Downthony Towntano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Yeat album, Afterlife. This is a brand new LP from California rapper Yeat, who is currently one of the most notable figures in the growing wave of rage music, a dense, repetitive, and sometimes trippy subgenre of trap that's had an incredible amount of demand ever since Playboi Carti came out with records like Die Lit, as well as the more recently released and also pretty inconsistent Whole Lotta Red. There's been such a demand for it, Carti's been able to create this little cottage industry out of releasing music from far inferior artists doing pretty much the same thing on his own label. But recently there's also been a wave of upstarts experimenting with the genre around its edges. You have UK artist Lancey Foe, whose new project had some pretty out there moments on it. Philly internet veteran Matt Ox has been dabbling as of late too. And of course you have Noah Oliver Smith, aka Yeat, who in terms of digital footprint has really been punching above his weight as of late through a combination of bona fide meme status and passionate cult fanbase. The way this guy's music polarizes people, you would think his fanbase is 5 times its size. But ultimately, I guess that's just an inevitability of exposing a piece of music to large swaths of people who were never really intended to enjoy it. Because despite its current popularity with the youth, make no mistake, what Yeat does is niche. Many of his songs run more one-dimensional than hooky and dynamic. His lyrics aren't exactly substantive or intelligible a lot of the time. I think it's pretty fair to call out his music as being somewhat vapid. Plus, the warped, buzzing, thick layers of bass and synths and auto-tune vocals are not going to be for everyone. But with that being said, I can see the appeal behind Yeat's music too. For one, it's deeply visceral and intoxicating, just pure instant gratification with a side of disassociation. I can't really blame his audience for using his music to unplug from the harshness of a bullshit world they didn't create, even if they haven't fully rationalized as to why they're doing it. So Yeat's music is all that, and I'm also here to add, on top of that, it's also genuinely weird and out there, especially on this record, even if, again, he hasn't fully rationalized why he's doing it. Now, unfortunately, in terms of reviews, I came to the Yeat party a little late. Like many, my big introduction to him was through last year's 2 Alive, which, yes, had an instantly recognizable sound, but the redundant songs and unenthusiastic performances, combined with some muddy mixes too, held the record's full potential back by quite a bit. Then the expanded edition of the album pretty much made all of that worse. Then there was the even more recently released Life that just kind of felt like more leftovers from this blow-up era in his catalog. So call me surprised when I went back to listen to an older project like Up to Me and found there to be a lot more clarity and youthful electricity on the performances with this record. As a result, I felt like I kind of missed something there, and for sure I did. But now on Afterlife, it feels like Yeat is finally coming into something else. A new phase where relatively I think he's outdoing himself. Now, the cycling, trippy, mind-numbing sounds of 2 Alive are still in full effect here, but this time around it seems like there's a bit more method to the madness, even if Yeat is arriving to this point just intuitively, because still it's pretty clear he doesn't preconceive a lot of what he does on these tracks. In many ways, Yeat is kind of like the definition of uncalculated, which is kind of rare, especially for an artist who is at his level of visibility. Now, I will say this record's Achilles heel, a lot like with 2 Alive, is that, yeah, it's bloated with 22 tracks and 68 minutes of runtime. Given Yeat's love of simplicity and repetition, I have no earthly idea why some of these tracks are landing between 3 and 4 minutes in length. I mean, there are a few examples where it works out in his favor, like the opener, whose impeccably eerie atmosphere, pitch black bass, and creative ad-libs filling the background I could swim in forever. But much of the time, Yeat is not bringing enough versatility and structure to properly develop a song over that course of time, be it on Mean Fiend, Shh, Better Off, or Rave Party, which sounds like anything but. But still, even with a handful of cuts going a bit too long, the vast majority of the tracks on this project I found to be pretty engaging, and actually experimental for Yeat and this genre of music. Let me explain why first with the vocals. Yeat's range and inflection have actually expanded quite rapidly since his earlier releases, and some of the deliveries and performances he brings on this project are borderline insane. It's not just that sometimes he sounds like three different rappers in this rage style on a single beat, as he switches from a lower register to more of a strained melodic lead, and then further down the road something even more alien. No wonder there's so few features on this record, as Yeat plays his own hype man, his own guest singer, and his own guest rapper pretty effectively. Young Boy Never Broke Again does pick up the pace on the second half of the second track here pretty effectively, but all the other appearances of artists on this record are actually alter egos attributed to Yeat, which he pretty much confirmed in an Instagram story, which also speaks to the versatility of this record too. There's the song Now featuring Le Geeky, which is a smooth, low-key, ultra-melodic track with a lot of synths layered into the beat, this chipmunked chorus effect on Yeat's singing voice. It sounds kind of drained. Overall, I would categorize the track as being overly long, but still, make note of the fact that this song has more of a melodic sense than I think most people would give Yeat credit for, which I think he also showcases on the track None Night Change, whose intro bars bring this driving, sort of industrial dance beat to the table that sounds like something off of a Nine Inch Nails record. Eventually, Yeat ends up riffing over this very dark, bassy groove with melodic ad-libs that feel like a subconscious nod to Kid Cudi. The fact that Yeat always seems to be in this state of volatility and radical change makes the experience of this album engaging, kind of edge of your seat. I'm always looking for what he's trying to do next, whether that be on the song Schmunk, where he can be heard aggressively shushing the beat, as well as blowing raspberries on it. There's various tracks on this thing where he can be heard screeching like a bird of prey. I have no idea how he's doing this. Maybe like I'm so sick right now, I can't even make the sound. Ugh. There's lots of muttered and growled bars on the track Mean Fiend, a whispered ASMR flow on the cut Watch, which is contrasted eventually with the sound of, well, I mean, obviously it's Yeat, but it seems like he suddenly embodied a cotton-mouthed old man going on a rant. Not to mention all the times on this thing where Yeat is making all matter of weird, wild, out there sounds with his mouth, dousing them with effects, and just filling the backgrounds of these tracks with them. He's a man of a dozen voices at this point, like Kendrick Lamar, except instead of switching his style up for some kind of narrative point, Yeat is doing it just to be a silly goose, seemingly. But yeah, there's some pretty versatile highlights on this thing, be it the cold-blooded banger Slam, which is loaded with these deep register flows and Taco Bells on the instrumental. I also love the way that Yeat rides the beat with a mostly high-pitched and raspy flow on the song How It Go. He kind of he's on the beat a few times too, and I can see why, because he is being a bit funny about it, saying that he's stacking bills like Cosby? No, bro, you don't want to be like Bill Cosby. You don't want to be like Bill Cosby in any way. Meanwhile, Heavyweight is legitimately one of the catchiest songs Yeat has dropped so far, with these infectious repetitions of ah woo, painting a bassy trap beat and really airy hypnotic chord changes. Riding in the Tonka, it's a heavyweight champion. There are some spots on this LP where Yeat really experiments outside of his comfort zone too, and it goes over better than expected. Yes, like on the previously mentioned None Night Change, but there's also the sort of introspective and vulnerable Back Home too, where Yeat can be heard giving a pretty impassioned and compelling performance over some acoustic guitar chords. There's also the closer Myself, which shows that Yeat cared about the flow of this record and how it sounded at the end of it, which, again, for this style of music, you don't really expect. But much of the track is filled with these sad, strummed, watery electric guitars, some punchy drums as well. It's kind of like he's doing a depressed little indie rock boy kind of thing, and vocally it works. But can we be surprised given the popularity and success of the recent Yachty project? Plus the strings that bust in at one point on this track, is this a Smashing Pumpkins song? As far as redundancy goes, I wouldn't say Yeat is fully reformed. There are cuts here that do see him kind of chasing his own tail, be it on those songs that drag on or on Demon Tide. But I still think Afterlife is Yeat's most creative and versatile project to date, and legitimately neat and daring, even if it's not likely to transcend far outside of the obsessed fan base for this type of music. Feeling a strong 6 to a light 7 on this one, Transition. Have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Yeat forever.